SBC Media.
Brazil, a global economic powerhouse, deeply passionate about sports, and now home to one of the hottest markets in gaming. And we're giving it the full SBC treatment. Join industry leaders, market experts, and all the major players in the country for 3 days of content, exhibition, and epic networking at the first ever SBC Summit Rio.
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
Greyhound and horse racing have a symbiotic relationship with betting, and this of course means that developments of one sector will inevitably affect the other. This has been clearly demonstrated by the concerns raised around affordability checks, which the UK government plans to implement as a key measure of its review of British gambling. However, as Lord David Lipsey, who is chair of Premier Greyhound Racing, recently noted, much of the attention has been on the impact checks will have on horse racing, whilst greyhound racing has received much less attention, despite being the UK's fifth biggest spectator sport. I'm Ted Orme-Claye, SBC News senior journalist, and on today's episode of iGaming Daily, sponsored by SBC Summit Rio, I've been joined by Garry Nash, Managing Director of Premier Greyhound Racing. Garry, how are you today? Thanks for joining us.
Very good. Morning.
So just to start us off, kind of looking at the operations of Premier Greyhound Racing, or may as well abbreviate it to PGR for convenience. So PGR launched in 2021 with the aim of sort of reviving the greyhound racing proposition to the UK general public. How would you say proceedings have been going so far?
It's going very well. As you say, we're going live in January 2021. Just to be clear with everyone, Premier Greyhound Racing is a media rights business. Luckily, the tracks under the PGR umbrella for media rights from January 2024 will continue to be operated by Entain, Arc, Arena Racing Company, and the independent operators. That's a total of 14 tracks in total, out of a total of about 20, roughly 20 in the UK. What we've been working on, we've been mobilising for a long time. So I've been in place for about a year as managing director of the business, appointed by both Entain and Arc. We've put a very strict management structure in place, governance in place, and processes in place. Because with all joint ventures, it's very important you define how you're going to make decisions and actually look at the tough questions before you go live. Because when you go live, there's a lot of pressure. But if you've put the processes, the governance in place, it makes it a lot easier that you can go forward successfully. We've built the media rights business with the support of my two excellent shareholders, which is Entain and Arc. So I've relied heavily on them, their resources, their expertise to help us build this company. And luckily they are aligned in the objectives of the company, which is high quality, high welfare with innovation as well. What we have delivered quite early is May 2023, we released our schedule. Now, this schedule doesn't go live until January 24, but we wanted to get it out there early to give confidence to customers and operators and owners and trainers, all the key stakeholders within the sport, that actually this is going to be a strong schedule, strong business from 2024 onwards, and there's certainty of revenue and the sport. It gives confidence to the sport in the future. So We've released that early. We have, for example, in our schedule, we're 7 days a week where we've racing from roughly 10:30 in the morning to 10:30 each evening. We've a race every 5 to 10 minutes. And what we are about to announce in a couple of weeks is what we believe is an innovative broadcast solution. Key for us is getting this sport out there to as many eyeballs as possible across all the various channels. So not just your traditional direct-to-home channels, but also web, social media, etc. So we've done a lot of work of that in the last few months with our shareholders, with our partners, and we're about to release the broadcast plans. So watch the space on that.
Thank you very much, Garry. That was a really thorough breakdown of what PGR has been doing and the efforts you've been making. So as you said, it's clear that PGR has been really active in this area. I mean, from your perspective, what have been the big wins overall for Greyhound Racing's transformation in recent years?
Well, the primary one, of course, led by the regulator, GBGB, who are the another acronym, Greyhound Board of Great Britain. They're leading on welfare. So their welfare strategy, A Good Life for Every Dog, was released a while back. They're hitting their targets for stage 1 of the strategy. And that is critical for the future sustainability of the sport. It'll improve the image of the sport year on year, perception of the sport, and it's essential. And luckily, our regulator are passionate about it and putting all the resources into that. Also, how we're trying to transform the sport is opening it up to a wider audience. So expert bettors within retail, online, they understand data, they understand the form of dogs, of greyhound racing. Well, through our various partners, either through broadcast or data, what we're trying to do is get that information to your casual, your non-expert punter, so they can easily understand form information on the dogs themselves, the trainers, etc., to allow them to do a quick and easy fun bet on their preferred betting app. So we're doing a lot of work on that through the broadcast channels and with our data as well to try and get this information easily accessible to new bettors. And what we've also done as well, I think what really helps is really challenging our schedule. We put an awful lot of work into developing that schedule that we released in May. So, for example, we're going away from early morning racing, which really doesn't suit trainers, kennel hands, owners, etc., because they can't see the races easily. They have to get up at ungodly hours in the morning to try and get their dogs to the tracks. It doesn't suit the sport and the operating of the sports. We've gone away from that. And what we're really trying to do is focus as well on tracks and the local stadia about evening fixtures, in particular Friday and Saturdays, and trying to get people through the gate, helping the tracks get people through the gate on a Friday or Saturday evening. And
building on this, could you just sort of give us a general overview of where greyhound racing in the UK currently stands?
Yes, I'm an outsider to the sport. I haven't been brought up in greyhound racing. I was exposed to it when I was young in Ireland, but actually I don't know much about the industry. So of course I'm reliant on the shareholders and their expertise. But from what I can see, the current situation in greyhound racing is there are 2 competing schedules through TRP, which is run predominantly by my shareholder ARC, and also SIS. So there's no single schedule that gives customers everything that they need. I'm talking about customers in shop, broadcast at tracks, online. There are, as I said before, there are about 20 tracks in the UK, and the broadcast is quite fragmented and confusing across the schedules. So if you wanted to watch greyhound racing through your preferred channel of choice, whatever that is, a box online or a Virgin or a Skybox online, or on your betting app, it's quite difficult to find what you want, and to find where they're actually showing, certainty of showing the various races. There is a lot of racing weekly. Our schedule that we've gone live with is 59 fixtures per week, which we believe satisfies all customers' needs. That's retail, digital customers and needs. Currently, if you add up all the fixtures that are taking place at the moment, they're up to 100 fixtures a week. That's a lot of racing weekly. I would challenge, is that all of that needed? One thing that, as an outsider looking in, and this is back to the regulator, GBGB, they are focused on ensuring there's trust in the sport as a spectator sport and as a mechanism to bet on. So there are high integrity standards in the sport through management by the GBGB that they're constantly policing. That's a very, very good thing, and that allows you can build on that for promoting the sport going forward. And
something I'd just like to touch on that you mentioned earlier of, the importance of getting people through the gate at these the various greyhound tracks we've got across the country. How important would you say these greyhound tracks are to the local community?
Well, they're very important for employment and an entertainment destination. They bring money into the local economy. And as I said, what we're trying to do is help the tracks. We don't Premier Greyhound Racing doesn't run the tracks. They're operated by the operators through through our shareholders, but they don't run them. But what we've tried to do is help them get people into the tracks at times that suit themselves. Also give them fixtures which suit how they operate. Now, that's not always possible because we have 14 tracks affiliated to Premier Greyhound Racing. They can't all get the best slots. They can't all have everything they want. So there is a bit of give and take. But hopefully to help the local tracks so they're not just forgotten about as a media rights fixture, that they can get people in the gate. We're trying to give them Fridays and Saturday evenings that suit. We try and give them other times, Saturday mornings that suit themselves as well. And even Thursday evenings and Monday evenings. Some of the tracks love Thursday evenings and Monday evenings to get people in. Becomes a tradition, get the owners in, have a good night out. And that's very important because it really helps the vibrancy of the local community once you have a track which is successful and not just focused on media rights. We've also worked with some of the tracks to look at their start and finish times for their fixtures because not every track is the same. They're very, very different. And they have different customers who want to go to their tracks at different times. So we've worked with them to suit. Some want a later finish, earlier. Others want an earlier finish. So we've tried to work with them on the schedule as well to try and help the vibrancy of the tracks.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point, actually. I mean, I remember when I used to go to Nottingham Greyhound a bit when I used to live there. And you noticed it a lot on, especially Friday night, Saturday night, very vibrant, lots of very entertainment driven. But then, I can imagine when you've got these earlier fixtures, which, as you said earlier, can often happen at very, very early hours of the morning of like sort of the working day. Yeah, you're definitely not going to get as much engagement with that. I think the entertainment value, as you said, is a very interesting point. If I can just bring it, kind of bringing the conversation more towards the betting side of things now. Obviously, PGR has agreed a new media rights distribution deal with the UK's sort of big four of retail bookmakers. How would you say this has benefited the business?
Well, we're very, very lucky to have the support of the major UK bookmakers, retailers. It gives Premier Greyhound Racing long-term certainty of revenue, which then gives sustainability to the sport, the operators, the trainers, etc. So that confidence feeds through all the ecosystem of the sport. We're very happy that they have us on board as the primary Greyhound service from January 2024. And what we're trying to do with the retailers as well, like Greyhound betting within shops is a filler product. It's not your primary football on SSBTs, etc., or your big horse racing. Well, we want to bring out a bit of prominence to the sports. We're working with some of the retailers to see how they can refresh Greyhound racing within the retail. Because if we're honest, very little has been done around Greyhound racing over the last good few years within the retailers to promote it. So we're seeing if we can do a bit more. Now, I know certain retailers are advancing very well their plans around using data, bet predictors, bet prompts for the customers within shops to help them make those quick bets, those bet prompts, etc., to sort of refresh the sport within shops. We'll see how that goes. But I think change is always an opportunity to do different things, to innovate. And I think with the new schedule from 1st of January, we're trying to explore those ideas. Similarly, by the way, we have great commercial we have a lot of commercial deals with digital UK and international digital subscribers as well. So we'll see how they go in the new year, but we're very hopeful for those deals.
Again, very interesting point I think you make there. If I can again call my own sort of personal experience of, when I used to work in betting shops, you're right, there's a much bigger focus on horse racing and sports like football, whilst Greyhound racing, even though it's such an intrinsically linked sort of market with betting, it's often seems to be forgotten about sometimes. So I feel like they could definitely benefit from some more focus there. Now, you've just also mentioned sort of the digital side of things, and I know you mentioned online betting earlier. Is Greyhound racing a bit too focused on the retail betting discipline, or a bit over-reliant on it? And sort of how's that changing?
Well, it's like any betting. You can I'm not talking about Greyhound racing here. I'm talking about all sports betting. Of course, there's a drift every year towards online from retail. So online is incredibly important to us. And similarly, yes, luckily we have deals with online operators. But for we've also put on some fixtures in the evening which suit online operators, which online operators have requested for, because that's when analysis of the data, that's when actually a lot of people are online. So we've given them some extra fixtures in the evenings just to suit them. We'll see how they go. We'll review them continuously. Are they actually as beneficial to online operators as they hope and we hope they are? So that will be an interesting exercise. We're also working with 1 or 2 online operators, similar as we're working with retail, to enhance the proposition, enhance the Premier Greyhound racing schedule on online. So when you go onto online on your favourite betting app to bet, you, instead of choosing virtual or horse racing or football, you might be tempted to go towards greyhound racing, putting a bet on greyhound racing. And how we're doing that is working with the operators. It's up to them. They're looking at sort of showcasing particular fixtures each day, doing video clips about going through the form of each one. Also doing similar to retail and what we're going to be doing online, bet prompts, race predictors, etc. Enhancing the experience of the sport online. So we'll see how that goes. We don't know how it's going to go, but we're going to try it.
Okay, now that sounds interesting. Some positive developments going on, definitely. Now, if I can just circle back to the regulatory side of things, I realise that this is how I started the introduction to the podcast, and we've spent ages talking about anything but regulation. Obviously the big elephant in the room, the affordability checks. Could you just explain to us what concerns Greyhound Racing has about these checks that have been proposed by the Gambling Review, and which stakeholders would you say are really impacted by these changes?
Well, first of all, I think it's been covered very well in the last week, because Lord Lipsey, who's the chair of Premier Greyhound Racing, released a very good paper during the week about the difficulties how this could impact upon the greyhound sport. Also, my shareholder ARC have also released their comments on the latest Gambling Commission review. They've released them online, and it's very similar to horse racing. The similar issues to horse racing about the potential loss of income in the sport and those consequences. So I don't really have much to add from those extensive documents released earlier. Okay,
no problem. So as you mentioned, Lord Lipsey's comments. He's released, as you said, some very thorough breakdown of what some of the sector's concerns are about affordability checks. From what you've seen, and I'm not sure how much of a liberty you have to say, but have MPs been onboarding industry's concerns about the sport's future in this regard?
Yes, they have, and we're very lucky with Lord Lipsey. And Lord Lipsey works closely with GB on public affairs, because he is in the middle of Parliament and can discuss future legislation, possible future legislation around policy and legislation with key stakeholders. So why it's an interesting time is you've got the current government and the individuals within the current government, who of course Lord Lipsey with the sport to GB engages with, sets out the case for the sport as a whole, not just Premier Greyhound Racing. But then there could be a possible election next year, and there could be a change of government next year as well. So he's keeping an eye on manifestos, what could go into manifestos from the various parties as well, and just try engaging with them. And he's got very positive feedback. That's all I can say. He's had very positive feedback from current and future decision makers within government.
Yeah, the election is something. Yeah, we've talked about that a lot on the iGaming Daily lately. About how that is just a complete sort of known unknown, isn't it? With no idea what impact that could have on all of these sort of proceedings. Now, you mentioned again earlier sort of the image of greyhound racing in the UK. What do you think are some common misperceptions of the sport, and how has this impacted its image?
Yeah, so I'm an outsider to the sport. I've spent a lot of time looking at the sport in the last year, either on TV or going to tracks and trying to understand what's good about the sport and where the issues are. One thing it is good entertainment at night. It always has been. When I first moved to London 4 years ago as a civil engineer, a graduate engineer, we used to go out to Walthamstow Dogs every so often for a night out. It was always good fun. It's a fun, quick betting product, but it is difficult to understand how to bet on it, apart from told when you're at the track. But if you're in a betting shop or online, if you don't, there are barriers to betting on it. So that does stop a lot of people betting on it when it should be quite fun, quick, simple to do. One thing is dogs are well looked after. The welfare standards are high, and that's from what I see as an outsider looking in. And I've seen that I've visited a lot of trainers in tracks as well. But one thing that a lot of this isn't shown in the image of the sport and perception of the sport. People don't shout about it and how it looks. So we are, to help that, Premier Greyhound Racing, and do some marketing campaigns, focus on the broadcast channels, because that's what we're in control of, and the media rights, around what is good about the sport, around quality, welfare, integrity. And that's coming up in the coming months to try and help perception.
And just to summarise, we've obviously covered a huge range of topics and issues relating to greyhound racing and betting on this podcast today. So yeah, just to round things off, why should everyone be paying attention to what's going on here?
The sport has continual improvement on welfare. It's getting better. It's in a good place. It's getting better and better every year. So that's something to shout out about. It's something that the sport needs to be proud about. It's a quality sport with high integrity standards. And that's through the regulator GBGB policing what happens in the sport. And I'm very excited. Me personally, I'm very excited what we're going to do with the innovation through broadcast and how it's presented in shops, online, on your direct-to-home channels, etc. I'm quite excited by that because this hasn't been done before. We'll see if that helps people helps the perception of the sport. We'll also, we're hoping to get an increased number of people to the tracks through the improved fixture times, slots throughout the week, and all of this. Like the sport, from what I can see, is part of the culture, history, and fabric of Britain. Therefore, we just want to help improve the perception of the sport going forward. So everybody wins, really.
Okay, I think that's all we've got time for today. But to all our listeners at home, thanks for tuning in. And if you keep an eye on SBC News and also one of our sister publications, Inside of Sport, we'll be keeping you updated of any sort of developments with greyhound racing and its relation to the betting sector from there. We'll also be posting some links in the description to this for some added context on our discussion. And Garry, again, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
Great, thank you.
SBC Media.